Hello, Carol. I
Um,
am so happy to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and for giving us your time, your precious time. I feel very honored, and I love the work that you do with art. I've worked a little bit with you in the past. I have absolutely loved the sessions. So thank you for being here today. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us your background and why creative art and life-changing creativity as your business name.
Yeah, well, Greenshields here. Um, Basically, a long time ago, I discovered that I had patterns, and I discovered that my patterns, although I was aware of them, I couldn't seem to stop them. I observed and thought, I can see it coming, I can see it happening, and yet I still go around. I still do the same things. I go around in circles. And so when you've read the books, you recognize the patterns, and yet you're still not taking action. Now, this is where all of my study came in. I did spiritual psychology, I did British Association of Art Therapy, all the art therapy things to actually learn how to look when words aren't enough or when words are too much, because people who tend to explain themselves very well can actually dance around a problem without getting to the core of what's really going on or avoiding a topic. Whereas when I use drawings, that's when I actually see what the subconscious, when your subconscious goes via the hand to the paper, that is the moment that you are sending a message. You are telling me the real you. You're talking about the real you. So becoming aware of this and having to deal with during my study things that I hadn't dealt with, things that I had kept hidden, and then finding somebody who said, maybe you want to draw this. And I thought, that's interesting. So I did, and I drew things, and I had this sort of like an art journal, if you like, and I shared that with a therapist. And she nearly fell off her chair the next time I saw her. So it's like, this works. This is brilliant. I love this. And this is what I want to share. And this is what I do share. So,
Oh, I'm having goosebumps, Carol. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's fascinating, isn't it, when you're talking about going to therapy and repeating those patterns, being aware of them. But when you draw, it's as if you can't hide, right?
yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
Wow. I have some questions here for you.
Yes.
And I would love to be able to understand a bit more how you get to work with people. So you work with drawings,
I do.
right? So I want you to tell us why do you do it in terms of getting into doing it as not just your passion because it's part of your passion as well, but also like a life purpose, if it feels that way.
Yes, it's something I would like to share with people. It's something I would like to make more people aware of, because certainly for the people who are in their heads, people who are in their heads have this absolutely fabulous skill of rationalizing, which is wonderful. Really, don't get me wrong. It helps. It helps you look at things from a different perspective. It helps you look at things from another person's perspective. It can help you understand why somebody does things the way they do them. But when it comes to your own feelings, when you rationalize your own feelings and you can talk about that and you can dance around them, you're not helping yourself.
Mm.
In fact, you're actually hindering yourself. So when you have a drawing, I give different kind of yeah, what we say, assignments, exercises, whatever you like to call them. Basically, I listen and then I hear and then I say, please draw this. And because you are then on your own drawing something, you don't have other people's drawings to look at because obviously we're all influenced by things that are around us. This is coming purely from your own head. Or somebody says, I don't know what to draw. I have no idea. I say, well, it'll come to you. It will definitely come to you. This is why I use the drawing because what comes out is always so um, so fascinating and it gives so many clues about what's really going on. There are certain drawings that are specific drawings. For example, a house drawing, a tree drawing, person drawing, they're used in psychology today, usually for children or for psychiatric patients, more as a diagnosis type than anything else. But you can gain so much information from those types of drawings. I don't use those types generally um, in a one-to-one. I would use them to demonstrate during a workshop. So during a workshop, for example, to try and get people to communicate as a group again, then these drawings, because they're so specific and can give you so much information, they're ideal for that purpose. But when it's a one-on-one, it's almost always on what somebody's said, what somebody's told me. It's like, okay, I do use my own intuition, obviously, in this as well. And then I can ask somebody to draw something and we will look at the drawing together. Because you're not asking somebody to do something, you're after they've drawn, obviously, you're looking at the drawing together. That's when you can see the information. And it's always the interpretation of the artist. Of course, I see things, but it's always the interpretation of the person who's made the drawing. I just
Wow.
ask some questions.
Oh, I love that. So do you stay there if it's a one-to-one and then the drawer?
Um, yes, because if I have somebody in my practice here, then I can sometimes see facial emotions. I can see where they start the drawing and where they finish the drawing. That also gives clues because things that are added on later, things that are drawn first, things that are rubbed out, things that are enhanced. These are all things that I see when I'm watching somebody drawing. And it's not meant to be like, oh, draw for half an hour. These are little sketches unless I give somebody homework.
Wow.
And so if it's online, then I can't see when somebody's drawing. So I have to ask that person, where did you start? Were there any moments that you felt emotion come up or anything like that? So then it's more questions from me. Then we share the drawing on the screen, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So interesting. And when it comes to the group one, the group workshop, um, so do you get them to do their drawings, but don't you fear they can be influenced or biased by others?
They always are. Yes. There's always influence from others. I thought there was a really funny one because I was doing a workshop for a group, and then a next group were going to join. And one man said, I've just seen you explaining all these things to the first group. And what's to stop me drawing this, that, and the other onto my drawing? I said, that's a really, really good question. I said, because if I ask you to draw something and you're going to copy somebody else, what does that say about you? That's a really interesting question because the man sort of like, because you've just given something a positive meaning. And I think, hey, positive meaning, I'm going to copy that.
Yeah.
Or negative meaning because somebody missed something really interesting, because that says so much more about yourself than anything else. But when you look at the drawings, um, if I ask people to do a house drawing, then have some water, Aurore. Oh, poor Aurore, just coughing there. But I think you can still hear me. But if I ask somebody to draw something and they are in a group, then generally they actually go ahead and do their own thing because they see that the people around them are doing something so different to them that they don't actually know what they would choose to do themselves. So it is fascinating to see what happens in a group because I give a few different assignments. And after the first assignment, um, then they sort of have this, oh, wow, that says something about me. So if we go further, then we look at the in a group when we're looking at somebody who has told. about what their drawing means, then they have a very, very, very different awareness of how other people see that drawing. And that's when the whole group dynamic comes into play because people look at what they've all drawn and they are amazed at how different we all are. And exactly that difference within the drawing will tell you something about that person. And when that penny drops, then people realize that they themselves are so very different and so very unique. So this is one of the magical things during a workshop that happens. And another thing is getting people into the modus of being in a workshop, first of all. Usually I ask the question from a well-known artist. I usually use a lesser-known um, painting from a well-known artist. And I say, what do you see? And then I let the whole group say, depending on whether we're splitting into two groups or one group, I ask the whole group, what do you see in the drawing? And what do you feel about the drawing? Now, this bit, the feeling, is what some people have a very, very hard time saying. Many people cannot connect to their feelings. So they cannot say what they feel. So I have to ask them, do you like it or do you not like it? Would you hang it on your wall or would you not hang it on your wall? So yeah, these things are very, very important in how we actually communicate our feelings. Lots of people cannot communicate their feelings. Are you all right now?
It was bad. It's just Ken. I was thinking, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was bad. Sorry about that.
No problem whatsoever.
Do you want to restart it?
Oh, no, it's fine. I'll edit something out or not, as the case may be.
Okay. Um, okay. But I did hear what you said. It was fascinating. It's really fascinating to really understand that people don't know their feelings.
Yeah, you
Wow.
wouldn't expect it, would you? And people can do this. I had one group, and we're talking a group of people who all have master's degrees in anything to do. There were all different subjects, and there were six of them at this table. And two of them could not describe what they felt. They could describe the painting, and I said, but how does it make you feel? Well, it's kind of blue and it looks like this, and they would not go down to the feeling. I said, can you describe how you feel? And not going there, not understanding that there is a feeling that you have which says, I love this artwork or I do not like this artwork. And that is when you don't make that connection, the body-mind connection, that's where the work is needed. That is where the work is really, really needed.
It's fascinating. Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for sharing this. Sorry about that. So, next to my next question. So there are so many therapists and coaches. Why do you think that people come to you?
I think it's when people realize that they're really stuck, that they are searching. And a lot of people have done talking therapy and not been able to get the answers that they're looking for. And so they think, well, last resort, let me try this. And I do actually have a lot of clients where I am the last resort, where they have done lots of different types of therapy and they see that I work with drawings and they think, well, okay, this is interesting. And they are still not out of the realization of how much conditioning does to our minds, how much we are conditioned as children, even in our teens, um, that we believe certain things. And obviously puberty is um, all the building blocks that you have gained until that moment. Basically, you throw them all on the floor and then you restack them. But it's the identical values of your family, the things you've learnt that all go back in there. When you go into your second life phase, that is when you realize I don't actually want some of those blocks. And you actually get rid of some. And that is a very, very different phase because that's only when you start to realize, why do I do this? Why does this mean so much in my family? And yet I have a problem with it. And people start looking inside. Okay, I don't want to do that anymore. So that's something um, that when you're drawing, you go into the subconscious, and that's when you can reach the different parts um, of what you really feel, but can't actually speak about for some reason. You can't verbalize it. Yeah. So, um, oh yeah, a lot of people who can rationalize, as I earlier said, um, they can't make that connection. They can dance around and say, "No, I had a really good childhood," or "No, it's part of our culture," or "No, that's just how we did things," and "No, I was really happy." Yeah, no, and they can completely. And then I say, "Well, just draw this for me," and then I have a certain with a lifeline how I let people draw the lifeline, um, and that shows something totally different. So that's when I start to get very interested and say, "Oh, I've got some really good questions for you."
Oh, I love that. So last resort when people they've tried all sorts of things,
Yeah.
and again connecting back to when we're very little, isn't it? Because when we go to kindergarten, nursery, that's where we paint, we draw, and as we go to school, college, we sort of forget about that. It's not a priority.
And you
That's
are
beautiful.
blessed or you are not blessed with the teacher that you have. If somebody says you need to draw a flower like this with a stem, with two leaves, and with a little circle and then petals around it, if somebody teaches you that's the way you draw a flower, instead of looking at your expression of a flower, somebody can stop your creativity straight away and basically saying you are not allowed to express yourself in any other way than I tell you to.
Wow.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's
Yeah.
like if you are speaking and somebody says, "Oh, you can't say that," or "That's stupid," or whatever, and you're thinking you're doing your best, somebody's laughing at you, that can have such a profound, deep effect on the rest of your life without you even knowing about it. These things can show up in drawings. I had somebody draw, they actually did draw a house in one of their drawings. It was an exercise, and they'd drawn themselves on a lounger, but then they put in the floorboards and sort of like the floorboards went across the lounger. So what does that actually look like? It looks like somebody who's strapped to the floor. So I did ask the question, what do these mean here? And we got into the deeper um, meaning of this, and it was fascinating, really
Wow.
fascinating.
Yeah, I believe you. I really believe you, and I love how you do it. I've I've assisted your workshop before, and I absolutely love it. So another question, Carol,
Mhm.
what is the difference between having an awareness and an actual change?
That's it's a really interesting process. That is the process because we have blind spots. Because we have blind spots, as they say, as the name suggests, we cannot see them. It takes somebody else. So it's either a coach in any form or a therapist who can actually help you look at the blind spots. Of course, you need to know where to look. You need somebody who is honest with you, who is willing to open up. That's when you can look at the blind spots. When somebody's aware of a blind spot, that's when they can observe the blind spot. So that's just the start, basically. When you know where the blind spot is, that's when you can look at it. So when you look at the blind spot, you can think, oh, I always do this. Now, when you know that, that's when you can work towards, okay, now I'm observing. And because you're observing, you're actually giving yourself a time delay. So when you give yourself a time delay, then you don't have to react in the same way that you have always done. So when you don't react in the same way you've always done, you can choose to act in a different way, and that's when you actually bring about change. But the first part is becoming aware, and to become aware, you really have to be prepared to dig deep and look at the blind spots. And that
Mm.
is sometimes digging over painful things in the past. And I have to admit, there are certain um, versions of psychology that say, don't go back and rake up all the past because we just look to the future. My opinion is that if you haven't dealt with the past and if you are not aware of what went on in the past, because we tend to hide things and keep things hidden and push things down, then it's going to be very, very difficult to go and sail through the future without having that affect you. So it sounds simple. Yes, let's just look to the future. But if you don't actually deal with the past first, then I think you will have a problem in dealing with the future. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true because I remember I did a hypnosis session, and and I went back to having to doing that thing again because I haven't processed whatever was blocking me from whatever I needed to resolve. So yeah, totally right. Totally right. Wow. And do you find it difficult that people have got, especially for those who haven't got the awareness, but they're wanting some change? Have you had clients that way? They want something to change. They feel they're a bit stuck, but they don't have that awareness.
uh, yes, generally people have tried everything. So they're still open at that moment to finding out where the awareness is. So um, it comes from a different place than they were expecting it. That's what usually happens. They have read everything, they have studied things, they can tell me about their behavior, they can tell me everything. And when I go into the deeper work and to find out what's actually happened and then enlighten them about a process that I can see and ask them if that's true, then they can see things differently. So there is an awareness of a situation, there is awareness on a certain level, but they haven't taken it to the deeper level. And they also, a lot of people miss the conditioning. They don't give um, the right weight, if you like, to the conditioning that's already been done. So that's something that
Oh, interesting.
once you can actually respect the fact that you have been conditioned, whether you realize it or not, that can show you so many things, even down to the tiniest little things, that habits at home. When you come into somebody's home, do you take off your shoes? Do you keep your shoes on? Um, does everybody eat at the table? Are you drinking water with a meal? Do you drink something else with a meal? Do you not drink with a meal? Just the tiniest little things. Yeah,
Wow.
how often do you change bed linen? How often do you clean? That there are so many tiny little things that are usually conditioning. And it doesn't mean that you say, oh, I didn't like how it went at home, so I'm doing it differently. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
because there will be other areas where you have been conditioned, where you um, do something without thinking about it because that's how you've always done it.
yeah, yeah. Wow, so interesting. Getting me to think back about my mom getting me to change the bed linen when I was little. So Carol, tell me, what do you believe is the biggest misconception that people can have about therapy, going into therapy?
That the therapist has to do the work. Yeah, I think therapy is a lot more accepted these days. Um, it's not a bad thing. People think, okay, therapy is okay, but there are still so many people who have this idea, I don't want a stranger interfering in my business without seeing the benefits of it. So it's still seen as keep it under wraps. Nobody has to know about this kind of business. But then all the guilt and shame that goes with that and the feelings of powerlessness, if you try to keep that pushed down, it will always come back. And it may come back in anger. It may come back with huge anger outbursts. It may come back with self-destructive behavior, self-sabotage. Those are all things that happen because we keep things pushed down. So
Wow. I think we live in a world where it's a bit more open, right? As you said.
I think so now. I think people are more open to it, but still there is a lot of yeah, what's the word for this? Mistrust of therapy. And to be honest, there are a lot of people who are um, saying I'm a coach or I'm a therapist, and they've maybe had 6 months of training, and they are attempting to help with problems that are deep-rooted problems, and they can actually do more damage than good. And unfortunately, that is also, um, I do understand people being a little bit mistrusting of this.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Wow. Um, so next question, Carol. So for you personally in your journey as a therapist, what has been the hardest lesson you've learned? And did it change the way you practice now?
Um, yeah, I've obviously had quite a few lessons. It's just the way it works, isn't it? Um, I was taught because I did spiritual psychology. I was taught that you are always one or two steps ahead of the person that you coach. So you're never a huge gap away from the people that, because otherwise it wouldn't resonate.
Mm,
You give the recent information. Um, so that said, there is also trusting your own intuition and your own feeling. And I remember having a client, and it's quite a few years ago now, and she came in dire circumstances. It was a really horrible situation that she sketched that she was in, and she asked if I could help, and I said yes, but I had this gut feeling. I had a bad feeling about the wording of certain things that she had said, and obviously the feeling that goes with it. And I, it was one of those situations where you think, okay, there's funding, she's paying up front for 8 sessions, it's gonna be good, it's gonna be fine. We'll get to the bottom of this. It wasn't. It was actually some kind of scam that she tried to get the money refunded to her that her company had paid. And she obviously we'd had like 2 sessions and a lot of communication in between, like when are you coming back? When are you going to make a new appointment? Because this, and this. And she wanted to have the money sent to her and not to the one who'd paid her. Um, so it was a real, it was such a horrible feeling. And it's so important to realize that if you don't trust your intuition, at that moment, she was not the right client for me. I felt it and I ignored it because it was easy. So
mm,
this is something I will not repeat. If my gut says no, then I say no. And if there are any questions or any doubts, then I wouldn't actually hesitate to have a second get to know me session, because it's just like, what's really going on here? That's obviously the the curiosity as well, but yeah, what's really going on? Because
wow.
so yes, that was really interesting to experience.
Yeah, a bit
Um,
challenging as well, I imagine, isn't
it
it?
is,
Yeah,
yeah,
because that process you're not expecting to really chase. You're wanting the person to be honest about the journey that they are
yes, yeah,
embarking on, really.
yeah. So even though the situation was dire, the intention was not honest.
No.
And that was really difficult. Um, I expect honesty. I can be very brutal. I can be very, very direct in my sessions, but I expect honesty, and that's basically something that is necessary.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry you went through that, honestly.
Life, it's a lesson, it's a journey.
Yes, yes, totally. And so when you go through the therapy process, how do you know when therapy is actually working?
When I have excited clients, when I have somebody who really wants to tell me about what they've experienced in the weeks in between, and say, I noticed this and this happened, and look at this result. And I have to share a little story. One, this was, I'm allowed to share it as well. I did ask permission. My client had a colleague at work who every time he saw her, he frowned and he looked at her like, and obviously this is a light problem in relation to what was really going on with her. But because he did that, it was triggering something, a reaction with her and giving her a lot of fear. And that was obviously from the background of what she's experienced. But this is how it plays out into daily life. Somebody frowns, you're afraid. What have I done wrong? Why doesn't this person like me? Is this going to be a problem? What are the consequences? How can I get through the day? Etc., etc. So we had a little confer about this one because this was towards the end of her sessions. And I said, what could be really going on with this person? Why might this person be frowning? Because you can think of three different things. Tell me. He says, I can't think of anything that he really doesn't like me. I said, no. Okay, let's make this ridiculous. Let's make this ridiculous. What are three things that you can think of why this person is frowning at you? I said, maybe he's got trapped wind. This was the first one we had. So, so she said, I know, maybe his underwear's too tight. I said, that's it. I said, that's the one. You've got this. So the next time she saw him, in her mind, she thought, oh, his underwear's too tight. That brought an automatic smile to her face because she got, in Dutch we call it a binnenpretje, an inside fun, an inside laugh. So she saw him and it made her smile. He smiled back. The next day, he smiled back again. I think by the end of 2 weeks, he was starting to be friendly. He actually invited her to join them on the table, and they got into
Oh,
conversations after that. This perception, it doesn't matter why he was frowning, but
yeah.
how you interpret that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was hilarious. It really was. She said, if you can help anybody else with this example, but when you think somebody is thinking a certain way, and if you can think of three sometimes ridiculous examples of why they might be thinking that way, then basically you know that you don't know.
Mm.
And then you are allowing your day to feel worse because of what you're projecting onto somebody else and thinking that they might be thinking this and giving yourself a hard time. So when you learn to do that, makes a huge difference and it's hilarious in the process.
It's very, very funny, but it's I love how it turned out for her and also for him, because then, that element of fear for her was sort of gone.
It is.
A beautiful testimony, right?
Yes.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So knowing or seeing clients coming to you feeling excited
Yeah.
is the cue for you.
It's usually really that people really want to share something. I also give people homework in the form of an art journal. Um, we practiced that a few times, and then how you can actually use that to your benefit. It's not just a question of drawing something in a book. So there are ways that you can do this that actually benefit you. So when I explain how you can use an art journal, then um, yeah, people want to show me what they've done.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's really lovely to see
Yeah.
because with work that's done in the practice, I take photos of it to keep the journal for myself for the records. Obviously, all very confidential. But for the art journal, that's somebody's private work. So being allowed to see it and also somebody wanting to show it, that's just, yeah, really, really wonderful.
Yeah. It's sharing a part of them, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
allowing themselves to be vulnerable and be seen.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
beautiful. I love that.
It is.
Absolutely love that. So I have one last question for you, Carol. So is there anything else that you feel like you would like to talk about?
Um, I think I've mentioned everything, but I think looking at drawings, it seems so simple, and you can draw something that is so simple within. I often give 5 to 10 minutes, no more, to draw something, and people can do a drawing within 5 minutes, and they've got lots down, unbelievably. And just the information that you can read from that drawing is unbelievable, fantastic, fascinating. Just literally amazing. So I don't know. I think it's just the actual um, don't ever underestimate a drawing. If you look at a painting, you know what you see. You either like something or you don't like something, and sometimes that translates to I love it or I hate it. I think the one in the middle is worse. It doesn't do anything. I don't notice it. So either having the strong emotion, I really don't like that painting, or I really do like that painting, it says something about us, about our taste, about our feelings, and to tap into that,
Mhm.
that's yeah, that's basically what I do, what I love to do, and what I want to share. So yes.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you for your time today. And I look forward to, to seeing how this plays out for you. And and most importantly, thank you for your gift. It's a beautiful gift to have.
Yeah.
Because I think it, in many ways, it allows us to, excuse me, to connect back to our inner child. So thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thanks, Aurore. Thank you.